The number one question I get from people moving to Seattle is, should I rent first or should I just buy? And the answer I give is probably not what you're expecting. I'm Brennen Clouse, a Seattle real estate agent, and I'm going to walk you through how I actually think about this, including one situation where renting first is genuinely the smarter move by a mile, and the one where waiting would cost you more money. Look, here's what nobody in real estate wants to say out loud. If you are moving to a city you've never lived in, renting first is not a bad idea. Not at all. I've worked with buyers who move here from Phoenix or Austin or Atlanta, bought within 90 days of arriving, and 6 months later they realized they'd bought in the wrong neighborhood for how they actually live their life. Seattle's neighborhoods feel different from each other in ways that are hard to understand until you're actually here. Capitol Hill, Fremont, West Seattle, Redmond, these are not interchangeable, and picking the wrong one can be a six-figure mistake. So if you're moving here with zero Seattle experience, no strong preference on where you want to be, and you can afford rent for 12 months without killing your finances, renting first is a legitimate strategy, and sometimes it can be the smartest strategy. You're buying information on where you want to be. But here's the catch. Seattle's rental market is definitely not cheap. A one bedroom in a decent neighborhood can run anywhere from about $1,800 to $2,600 a month right now. You're paying for that information you're getting by renting in that spot. Here's the thing, and this is where most people get the math wrong. Seattle's home values have appreciated significantly over time. Not every single year, but over history they have appreciated. And when you rent, you're not building that same equity. You're paying someone else's mortgage. In Seattle's market, that gap between building up your equity and paying rent really compounds over time. So let me give you a real example. A buyer who purchases, let's say, a West Seattle home in 2021 for $750,000 is probably sitting on a property worth roughly $820,000 to $850,000 today, depending on where it's at. So that's anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000 in equity. Their counterpart, who rented a two-bedroom for $2,200 a month, paid $79,000 in rent over the same period, with basically nothing to show for it. Maybe they got the information, but that's all. Now, that's not a universal argument. Don't get me wrong, markets shift, timing matters, but Seattle has historically rewarded buyers who held for 5 or more years. I always tell my clients, plan to hold for 5 to 10 years at the minimum. So let me know in the comments below, are you leaning towards renting first or buying right away? I'm curious where people are landing on this right now. Here's how I actually work through this with buyers. It comes down to 3 questions. Question 1, do you know where you want to be? If you have a job in South Lake Union and you know you want to be within 20 minutes of the office and you've done the research on 2 or 3 neighborhoods that fit your lifestyle, then you're probably ready to buy. You don't need to rent to gather information you already have. Question 2, how long are you staying? If you're here for 2 years and then you might move, definitely rent. Transaction costs on a home purchase in Seattle can be anywhere from 8 to 9% approximately between closing costs, agent commissions, and move-in expenses. And you can't recoup that amount in 2 years unless appreciation is exceptional, like during the pandemic, which we're not in anymore. Question 3, what's your financial situation? If you've got a solid down payment and your credit is in good shape and your debt to income ratio is where it needs to be, the market is approachable right now in 2026. Inventory has been improving and you don't need to rush, but you also don't need to wait. I'll be upfront with you about what I've seen go wrong. The buyers who rented first and then waited too long, the market moved, rates shifted. They priced themselves out of neighborhoods they'd love to live in for a year and then had to go further out. The buyers who bought immediately and got it wrong, they bought in a neighborhood that felt exciting maybe during a weekend visit or something like that. They moved in and discovered 3 months later that the commute was a nightmare or the neighborhood energy wasn't exactly what they expected. Both of these are real. Neither is a disaster, but both cost money and stress that didn't have to happen. The solution is not rent versus buy? The solution is be honest about what you actually know and what you don't know. If you're not sure, come talk to me first before you sign anything at all. Here's a quick snapshot of where the Seattle market sits as of spring 2026. Inventory has been rising. We're seeing a lot more homes on the market. We're not in a buyer's market technically, but the days of 25 competing offers are behind us for most properties. Homes that are well priced and in a good neighborhood in good condition are moving in 1 to 3 weeks on the market. Homes that are overpriced or need significant work are sitting, and that's creating some real negotiating opportunities for buyers who are prepared and ready to move on the home. On the rental side, vacancies have ticked up slightly, which means landlords are more negotiable than they were maybe 18 months ago. If you're going to rent, this is actually a decent moment to get a favorable lease. Of course, summer is different than winter, but overall it's more favorable. If any of this is landing differently than what you expected, drop a comment. I read all of them, and I've had some really good conversations in the comments, and I expect that this could spark a good conversation about renting versus buying. If you're moving to Seattle in the next 3 months, let's talk right now. The prep work for a purchase takes a lot of time, and you don't want to be making rushed decisions after you've already landed because you're gonna already have so much stress. If you're 30 days out from your move and you haven't started the mortgage pre-approval process yet, that's the first thing you should do right now as you watch this. Everything else flows from that. If you're 90 days out or more, use that time to understand the neighborhoods. I'll put a link to the neighborhood breakdown in the video description below, and you can download that to see the difference between some of the neighborhoods that I often work in Seattle. By the way, if you're thinking about moving to Seattle and you're trying to figure out whether renting or buying makes more sense for your specific situation, I help people work through exactly this every single day. My contact information is in the description below. The next video you should probably watch is the one on what you can afford different types of houses in Seattle right now. Because if you're in the $800,000 price range, the rent versus buy math could look different than depending on if you're targeting a different neighborhood where the cost is actually 1.3 million. So download that neighborhood guide, see what's going on in different neighborhoods, and let's set up some time to discuss and watch that video next to help you decide what you can afford.